If there's one part of the country that has prospered through recession, this may be it. Ontario's Kitchener-Waterloo area is a high-tech mecca, Canada's Silicon Valley, that invented both the smartphone and touchscreen display. Companies like BlackBerry may have put Waterloo on the map, but it's the thousands of smaller tech firms here that are helping chart the course for the future.
The tech startup capital of the country. We have now over 1,000 high-tech companies in Waterloo region. We create an average of one new tech company a day in this community.
I'm born and raised in this community. We've always done well, and we've done well because we are not single industry. And the reality is that I've seen this community go from a small town to the city that we are. We are blessed because we are leaders in manufacturing. We are leaders in insurance.
There are a lot of manufacturing jobs that we can bring back here based on our talent that is intelligent talent. We are training individuals here in Waterloo for the next generation of manufacturing, and we are ready and able to make those jobs.
First and foremost, we need to pay attention to the status of individuals in this community who are living well below the poverty line.
Waterloo has a highly educated workforce. 36% of residents here have university degrees, and the average family income is about $120,000 a year. Also, the city is booming. The unemployment rate is just over 5%, and that's one of the lowest in the country. Not only is Waterloo Canada's high-tech capital, but it also houses a lot of manufacturing. And it's home to not one, but two universities. Now, there's a lot of strength in that kind of diversified economy, but that strength is about to be tested. Auto manufacturing accounts for about 20% of the total workforce here, but in 2019, production of the hugely popular Toyota Corolla is set to move to Mexico. The plant will then switch production to a less popular luxury vehicle, and many worry about possible job losses.
So BlackBerry has gone from employing over, 11,000 jobs to less than 3,000. That's a hit that our community's taken. And what happens is that there's the ripple effect, right? So businesses feel it, restaurants feel it, the community feels it.
How do you respond to those people who say that under almost a decade of conservative rule that there's been a job flight, that companies are leaving this country, relocating?
I disagree very clearly with the premise of that question. We, as a conservative government, have worked to lower business taxes to attract businesses and investment to Canada. We now have an extremely competitive business tax rate at 15%. So we've lowered taxes for businesses, including large businesses, and we will further lower taxes for small businesses as well. These lower tax rates are creating jobs, they're attracting investment. According to Forbes magazine, Canada in 2014 was the best place in the G20 to do business.
The fiery exchanges at this university-hosted all-candidates debate show how much is at stake this election.
And I'm very pleased that today we concluded as one of the founding countries the Trans-Pacific Partnership Free Trade Arrangement, an arrangement that is historic, the largest free trade agreement ever negotiated and concluded in the history of the world. Access to 800 million people, 40% of the world's economy. 1 in 5 Canadian jobs depends on trade.
Apologies, Mr. Braid, but I'm going to have to let other people jump in.
I only just got started.
That was quite the run you were on. But Mr. Braid, saying it does not make it true, because the reality is, after 10 years under Stephen Harper, good quality job opportunities for young Canadians are tougher and tougher to find.
There's 60,000 fewer jobs for youth today than when Mr. Harper came into office. And where that Trans-Pacific deal is concerned, I don't know if it's historic because I haven't seen it. It's been done when a government is not even in office with a mandate to do the deal. So how do I know it's historic? How do I know that your jobs and your future jobs are protected? You're going to have access. 800 million people are going to compete against you now for a job.
I'm afraid, Peter, that you've given what I would regard, and we can agree to disagree, as sometimes we do, a hollow example. You referred to the Canadian economy as being robust, if I could use such an adjective, and I'd like to point out to you that it's hollow. This economy is one in which the debt-to-income ratio is 160 to 100.
The student vote could be an important factor in this riding, especially if some of the 40,000 student undergrads who are eligible show up at the ballot box.
Hey man, how's that sub? Delicious? Good job. Voting is also a fantastic treat, so check it out. October 5th to 8th.
It's just, if I was to vote, it would just be based on, hey, what are you voting for? Okay, I'll do the same things. I don't think that's a really fair way to be voting for anybody.
So you don't have time to inform yourself, therefore you're just not going to vote?
Yes, as awful as that sounds, yes.
This balancing act, it's not unlike politics these days.
Well, yeah, I would agree. I mean, if you look at the polls, it's almost even, and most of the polls, put one party ahead of the other at different points.
Do you know how you're going to vote yet?
I'm voting for anyone who didn't support Bill C-51, which leaves the NDP.
Why do you feel so strongly about that?
Because I've seen what's happened in the States and their extreme overreach in privacy, and how, the U.S. people have had their phone calls and their emails essentially collected. And I don't want to see that happening here, or just I don't want to see it legalized here.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to vote. I just don't really know strategically who to vote for. I just don't want the Conservatives to win, so...
So it's a toss-up between who for you?
Between probably, I want to vote Green, but I also don't want the Conservatives to win, so it's NDP or Liberal, I guess.
And you?
It would be about the same for me. I'd say it's choosing between NDP and Liberals.
Hello, sir. How are you? It's Peter Braid, Conservative candidate. Just seeing your neighbor to say hello.
Great.
Peter Braid is the Conservative incumbent here, a former insurance executive who first won the riding back in 2008 by just 17 votes. That slim win ended more than a decade of Liberal rule in Kitchener-Waterloo. In 2011, Braid won by more than 2,000 votes and hopes, as Parliamentary Secretary for Infrastructure and Communities, that all the investments he's brought to Waterloo will ensure the redistributed riding stays Conservative.
The largest infrastructure investment in our region's history is our light rapid transit project called the ION. This is a public transit project that will support our economy, that will promote and protect our environment, that will make our city more livable.
Despite the $12 billion the Conservatives claim to have injected into the Canadian economy, the effect of having Liberal leader Justin Trudeau in town, Liberals hope, will be priceless.
Thank you for that incredibly warm welcome this morning. It's great to be back here at Wilfrid Laurier University, as you know, named for my second favorite Prime Minister.
The federal leader isn't arriving empty-handed either, announcing a fully costed Liberal plan, which now includes major help for low-income students.
We'll increase the maximum Canada Student Grant for low-income students by 50% to $3,000 per year for those full-time.
Trudeau's stop in Waterloo also coincides with Canada concluding major trade talks on the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Morning, Mr. Trudeau. How are you?
Very well, thank
Jacqueline Mulchark with CPAC. You mentioned that Stephen Harper would have us believe that the economy would fail without his steering. But in truth, his team has been stateside, negotiating the final stages of the TPP, as we just discussed. That is a major feather, one would think, in the Conservative cap. How do you compete with that major economic achievement in the final 2 weeks of this campaign, coupled with, as you described, these attack ads that continue against you, not only by the Conservative camp, the NDP now as well? How do you sustain momentum against that two-pronged issue or attack?
Sorry, guys, I shouldn't be encouraging you. This is a press conference. I have tremendous faith in Canadians. I have been talking about issues that matter to them for 3 years now, responding to very real concerns they have about the fact that Stephen Harper has the worst record on growth of any prime minister since the Great Depression in the 1930s. He has the worst record of job creation of any prime minister since World War II. Mr. Harper has not delivered for middle-class Canadians the kind of growth that our economy needs in order to succeed. Now, I'm going to let my opponents continue to focus on me. I will stay focused on you.
And just to follow up, here in this riding, the unemployment rate is 5.1%, exceptionally low, many would say. Why would this riding want change if things are economically, one would say, pretty good?
Well, you don't have to spend too long in Waterloo to hear people talk about the need for better infrastructure investments, better, for example, two-way GO train all day to Toronto and back. The need for a federal government to step up and make the kind of investments now in our communities, in our young people, in our seniors that we need in order to create the kind of flourishing economy that Canadians know we can have. This is something that is fundamentally different between Mr. Harper and I. I know that confident, optimistic countries invest in their future, and he is committed to staying the course on a course that, quite frankly, hasn't worked for far too many people right across the country.
How is the tech sector doing? Still booming, or has it slowed down a bit? Of course, many would say technical recession across Canada. Has this place been immune to that?
Yes, it has. Our community has been immune, and we are not. You look out the window in Kitchener-Waterloo. There was certainly no recession here at all during 2015. We have seen continued employment growth, continued prosperity and success, and the future only looks brighter, particularly when you think of our tech sector. We have new and emerging and exciting areas of technology like quantum computing and the Internet of Things that will put us on the cusp of new discoveries in the future and grow new industries and new companies and create more jobs here in the future. The future for Waterloo is indeed very, very bright.
But the Conference Board of Canada recently gave Canada a C for innovation. That's not terribly great. So while this region may be doing well, does it have to help prop up the country? Are there immense pressures with that? And what's your response to the fact that we're a bit of a laggard on innovation as a country?
Absolutely, and this is an important area of public policy that we want to continue to make progress on. We know, for example, that our public sector investment in research and development at universities, at post-secondary institutions across the country, our public sector investment is the highest in the G7, but our rate of commercialization is one of the lowest. So we need to close that gap, and that speaks to the fact that we do need to improve our innovation prospects across the country, and we do need to improve our productivity. And Waterloo can provide an example for how we do that across the rest of Canada.
So what is the Conservative plan for innovation? I know there's $100 million that's been allocated, right, in grants to help support businesses, get their ideas going, to cement those businesses so that they are successful. But take us through what the Conservative plan is for innovation.
Well, the Conservative government plan for innovation is multifaceted, and I would suggest we're taking a whole of government approach. We have important programs like SHRED that provide support directly to Canadian technology companies. We're pursuing ambitious trade agendas around the world so that we can find greater markets to sell our Canadian innovation and our technology.
While the new TPP trade deal will expand Canada's export markets, there are concerns. Quotas for car manufacturers to use Canadian-made parts will be eased, potentially jeopardizing thousands of auto industry jobs.
On auto, we know that Canada is extraordinarily integrated in terms of supply chains with both the United States and Mexico, and the idea that the U.S. and Mexico would engage in a trade deal of this size, and somehow it might be in Canada's interest to not be part of that deal, I think is something that we're going to have to look into.
Well, I don't know if this should be on TV, but I want the Conservatives to be more conservative.
Okay, in what sense?
In what sense? Spend less and less taxes.
We're going to do those things.
The old Conservative.
Okay, well, we're going to keep taxes low. We're going to keep our economy strong. I think the other guys will either run deficits or raise taxes or both.
Absolutely.
Hi there. Can I just introduce myself? I'm Barshay, a Liberal candidate. this election is not only about the economy and healthcare, it's also in other areas that are important to people, but also about Canadian values. And it is a matter of what is your Canada about. And I think there's definitely a consensus amongst Canadians that the current government does not represent our Canadian values, whether it be our reputation on the international stage, whether it be an opportunity to be part of the democratic fabric and actually contribute and having a voice. This community needs a voice. Going to Ottawa, not the leader's voice coming down here.
Bardish Chagger is the Liberal candidate that's hoping to unseat Peter Braid in what most expect will be a tough two-way fight. She worked as an executive assistant to former Liberal MP Andrew Talegdi, and she does a lot of work with the immigrant community. She says 10 years of Conservative rule has changed a lot.
So when we talk about the government of the day and the number of manufacturing jobs we've lost in this community, there could easily be a direct correlation. But we within the Liberal Party recognize the need for manufacturing, so we are talking about the economy and the environment. So we're saying, let's look at clean energy products, let's look at green technologies, let's be leaders in that next drive so that we can be competitive. People worry about the national debt, but the reality is that the environmental deficit is huge, the infrastructure deficit is huge, the social deficit is huge. Let's look at the stat that just came out this past week in regards to the aging population versus the young ones. That's scary. And that's why we need to be looking at whether it be immigration or where do the numbers come in for. We need to make sure that our community is forever growing. We always need to achieve to be bigger and better and stronger, not the status quo.
The only thing I would miss with the Conservatives is the income splitting.
Yes.
That's actually beneficial for our family.
Do you have kids?
Yeah.
How old are they?
11, 8, and almost 6.
Yes, so I think what you'll make the difference with our child benefit.
Okay.
So check it out and compare it.
Okay.
And the nice thing is that you can go to realchange.ca and like put your figures in for your family, how old the kids are, and then So when it comes to income splitting, where we're at, it benefits less than 15% of Canadians. My parents growing up would have been part of that 15% as well.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to the child tax benefit, that actually helps out, especially the fact that it's not taxed.
Okay.
And then it's not adding to your income.
Did you convince her, do you think?
Well, I got her to check it out. So we are based on evidence-based decision-making. I think when it comes to our platform, it's bang on. It speaks for itself. And I think it's really important when you have a community like this that we do have an educated population that needs to make the best decisions for themselves.
The whole thing that's going on with the women's kneecap issue. And I think that's going to separate a lot of people. And unfortunately, it's sort of dividing the country.
Well, it's certainly not intended to do that. I think it's bringing people together. There, the issue of the niqab only deals with that that one sole momentary point during the citizenship ceremony where the new Canadian takes the oath of citizenship. We think it's important to obviously for Canada to be welcoming and diverse and accepting, but also that we have some common Canadian values and compromises as well. And having attended many citizenship ceremonies myself, I know how important and special that particular moment is.
While some voters may not like the distraction and divisiveness of the niqab debate, the wedge issue has helped boost Conservative fortunes in Quebec at the expense of the NDP.
You don't think that the 15,400 jobs lost in this riding alone under Stephen Harper are enough? I know that I do. I want to protect those jobs. I want to fight for those jobs.
The NDP also have their leader in town to ensure the riding of Waterloo is not a two-way but a three-way fight. The party won the riding provincially last year but is seeing a drop in the polls in this federal race. They're down in both Ontario and Quebec.
Mr. Mulcair, can the NDP win here?
How are you? Great to see you.
Tom Mulcair is on a historic one-day, 6-riding blitz through closely contested Conservative-held ridings in southwestern Ontario. He's hoping to keep the dream of an NDP government alive.
And is there any one issue that I might be able to answer any questions on for you?
Well, I think I like the NDP stance on C-51.
Yeah.
That's important to me.
And that's really why I left the Liberal Party.
But I'm not crazy about the I find the NDP's kind of getting away from, and provincially as well, it's been pandering a little too much, I think, to the middle class. And so I think it's losing its way a little bit.
Diane Freeman is the local NDP candidate. She's a 3-time city councillor who used to be a Liberal. The civil engineer says she's hoping that her party leader in town will make a huge difference.
Are you a factor? Is this a 3-way race or a 2-way race?
Oh, I'm a factor for sure. I'm another incumbent. I've been a city councillor since '06. I'm an engineer. This is a town that knows the value of having science and technology represented in policy making. I've demonstrated my leadership at City Council, and I'm ready to demonstrate that leadership in Ottawa. People in Waterloo Region are progressive voters, progressive thinkers. I know that polls go up and polls go down, and that the job has to be done on the doors, and that's where my team's focused, and that's what we will be doing. All I can tell you is that every day I hear it on the doors that people want change, and I'm prepared to deliver that for them.
Is it about economic performance, or is it about the nature of the country and how it's changing under Conservative rule?
There are a lot of folks here that are really, really well-educated, brilliant individuals who have spent a lot of time looking at data around economics, and it is clear Mr. Harper has the worst economic record in the history of Canada since the Great Depression, and Mr. Mulrooney second. So people are not naive to those statistics, and they know that the only way for Canada to grow globally, remember, we're an innovative area here. We know that it's a global economy, and people know that we need to invest in that, and Mr. Harper's plan is just not working.
I am committed to getting rid of the Harper Tories, and I really admire the Green Party's platform the most. I don't expect them to win this riding. I'm hoping you might.
Yeah,
I'm going to vote strategically, decide at the last minute. I'm going to drive around the suburbs and see what the sign count looks like, because I don't always trust the polls either.
Strategic voting is what he's going to be doing, but is there an alignment between the Green Party and the NDP, or what do you make of that?
Oh, I don't think there's an alignment. I think it's just that people...
In terms of policy?
Yeah.
Is there some crossover?
There definitely is. I mean, our environmental policy is a crossover. About getting people working is a crossover. In terms of, I'm sure that they're on the same page for repealing Bill C-51, and I'm off the top of my head. And you know what? A lot of people just like Elizabeth May. They just like that she tells it like it is. Yeah. And so a lot of times I see signs for Greens because they just want to remind Elizabeth that they think she's a pretty fine
But you're okay
lady.
to pick up some of that Green support if...
Oh, absolutely.
Green Party candidate Richard Walsh would love to win in Waterloo, but understands that strategic voting may send his supporters to the NDP.
Have you yourself thought about whether or not you'd like to vote Green?
I have considered it, yes. Mm-hmm. It's just, the only reason is because it does seem less likely to happen in this riding, or in any riding really, and really the most important thing for me is to get the Conservatives out of power. Right. So my vote feels most important in any way that it can help that happen as well as possible.
Walsh is a retired psychology professor who, before he turned Green, ran for the NDP, both provincially and federally. He's also a longtime anti-poverty activist with a unique lens on the community's needs.
In order to have a healthy economy for everyone in this riding of Waterloo, we need to pay attention to all the citizens, all the residents of the community, not just those who are affiliated with technological innovation. We're very proud of technological innovation in this riding, and the other candidates don't cease to trumpet the value of such, but this is a riding where there is much more diversity of ethno-cultural communities and much more diversity of income than such an extreme focus on high tech would suggest.
So sometimes those people get lost, is what I hear you saying.
That's correct.
So what's the solution when you look at the future of the Waterloo that could be? How do you envision it, and what are the solutions to bring us to that point?
Well, the solutions are many, but I'll note a couple of key aspects of the solutions. And I'm going to go back to the issue of poverty. And the first solution is the Green Party proposal for a guaranteed annual income. It's also known by other titles such as basic income. It's an idea, by the way, that the Canadian Medical Association in its August convention, issued a report or made a recommendation to the effect that this should become national policy. The political party that has advanced this idea previously and that continues to do so is only one, and it's the Green Party.
As we approach the end of the election campaign, many say the choice is simple, to choose change or the status quo. But deciding which party, candidate, and federal leader they can trust to deliver what they need and value most may prove more challenging.
We need a government that represents our best interest, a government that represents Canadians, not their conservative base. So are you liking your current government, or are you ready for a change?
I'm okay with our current government.
Are you? What's important to you?
I'm happy with economic stability.
Okay.
And just a steady hand at the tiller.
I've been your member of Parliament for 7 years, working hard to deliver results for the people of Waterloo. So I hope with your support and your family's support, I can keep working hard on your behalf.
This community has a lot to offer. And when it comes to the brain economy of this community and the fact that we are innovators, this is something that Ottawa needs to hear. This is something that we need to share with the nation. We should not be a secret.
Truly, the NDP can take this riding and will take this riding.
You expect to win?
I expect to win.
For CPAC in Waterloo, I'm Jacqueline Mulcharik.